Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. This is Amanda, and if you're curious, yes, I did finish Vampire the Masquerade Shadows of New York in the last video, but as you saw from that last video, I was not satisfied with the ending that I received. If you remember, I received the bad ending, and that was because I was trying to be a good person. But what I decided to do was replay it, and do essentially the opposite of what I did in the past. I'll go ahead and show you what traits I have. I did not film myself doing that because I figured the dialogue would still be relatively the same, and I was correct. Except there were a few things that changed because Julia became a lot more aggressive. So things with the warning that Tamika gave was a little bit different. Obviously some interactions with Dakota were a little bit different. The two biggest things is that Kaiser confirmed that everyone was there when Callahan died. But I did not see him mention Samira, Kadir, or Addison Payne. So I'm hoping that those three at least are not complicit in this. He said Torque, Panhard, Arturo, Ashling were there at least. Oh, and Vander Vaden, excuse me. Vander Vaden was also there when Callahan died. Another thing that I wanted to point out that was different, I decided to change up some of my dialogue choices when going through Agathon's diary. So I believe I said contempt, endure, and who. Those were the questions or responses that I gave in the diary. And reading that, it sounded like Ashling was treating him as an experiment, and it led me to believe that she was going to have him killed, if not already killed. So that was the other thing. Oh, and another thing is, if you mistreat the rat when you go to D'Angelo's place, Kadir is not taking the piss, he's not making fun of you, he genuinely does love animals, which is just another reason why I love Kadir. I have loved him since the start of this playthrough, and that just made me love him even more. But I'm going to quit blabbering on so we can actually see what the changes are in this case. It's just going to break my heart even more that we're going to go against him and not solve things as he would like. I skipped through all this just because it was exactly the same as it was in the previous episode. I think the main point of this video is just going to be what the changes were and what the truth is. So if I'm skipping ahead, that's why. And then, feeling like I'm simply following the way I conducted this investigation to its logical conclusion, I respond. Actually, I do. It's like the beast itself flashing Kadir's eye for a brief moment. No, you don't. But I do. Miss Sawinski, don't make a scene. Believe me, every one of you will really, really, really regret it if they don't listen to what I have to say. Will we now? Oh, absolutely. I stand up and step right in front of Kadir. Don't get me wrong, Kadir has done a spectacular job of selling you a ready-made narrative to package and export to the outside world. Hail to the sheriff and all that. But was this little show really necessary? Did you all really need to hype each other up to believe this fairy tale? What are you getting at, little girl? Easy for now, my prince. Insult me all you want, it's only going to make it all the sweeter when this little girl kicks your ass. I'm getting at the fact there's a different, more reasonable theory that explains everything. Everything to a T. That's great for you, sweetheart, but do I really need to stay here and listen to it? The door is right there, but on the off chance you get implicated in something tonight, don't you want the chance to defend yourself? And what are the chances of me being implicated in anything tonight? I'm pretty sure a lot of kindred in this room are asking themselves the same question right now. In each case, my answer is the same. You won't find out unless you stay right where you are. She stays. Alright, where was I? Let's assume that the cause of Boss Callahan's death really was suicide. Our man said, "Aw, fuck everything," opened the window shutters, let the break of dawn take care of all his problems. And let's assume that he really meant to send a message using that portrait of Lord Castlereagh. Sounds dramatic, but sure, let's go with it. But it is commonly understood that Castlereagh was pushed into taking his own life as a result of a conspiracy against him. Needless to say, his biggest fan wouldn't miss that detail. According to historians, the man's last words imply that some powerful people faced him with a choice: denunciation or death, which, for an ambitious politician, is not a choice at all. Oh, so that is kind of what, in my first playthrough, where I saw with Agathon, that does... Okay, yeah. In that conversation between Agathon and Callahan, that was mentioned. Okay. So if you're claiming that Callahan left us a hint, it's a troubling hint, don't you think? What are you... Enough. We're not dealing in conspiracy theories here. Of course you're not. I mean, a conspiracy theory backed by the elites is no longer called such. It's propaganda. Is there a point to this little show you're putting on, Miss Sawinski, other than digging yourself a deeper and deeper metaphorical hole? Oh, Mr. Arturo, you're still trying to tell yourself it's me who's in trouble and not you? That's adorable. Listen, you. No, you listen. He freezes in shock, definitely not used to resistance. I don't blame you for peddling propaganda. You're politicians. That's what you do. I'm just laughing at you for coming up with shitty, poorly conceived propaganda. So, will someone stop her, or... Mr. Addison Payne, you're the architect behind the local Camarilla's current speeches and general political narrative. Does this shit show really meet your standards? We stare into each other's eyes, unblinking, slowly feeling each other out. Eventually, with a barely audible snigger, he whispers to his servant. How do I put this? I'm always open to a better pitch. Oh, so maybe Addison really wasn't involved. That's kind of nice, because everyone seems to defer to him in some way. Not, like, completely, but they do defer to him in some way. That's all I wanted to hear. All I'm asking for now is a little patience. That I can spare. Oh, for goodness sake, Addison, come on, man. You can't possibly... Silence. I said what I said. Now let her talk. I love this. I love this. I'm so much happier with this ending. Thank you. I'm starting to have fun with this. Or more like, I'm feeling that weird rush reminding me of the first time I managed to ride a bike. The important thing is to keep up the momentum. Focus on pedaling hard. Don't even think of falling. You thought you had it all figured out, didn't you? An improperly handled murder scene, a disposable investigator forced to blindly stumble around, hopelessly chasing loose ends. Your only problem is that tonight, I realized I was using the wrong tools all along. Instead of a sleuth's magnifying glass, I only needed a journalist's pen. So I sat down tonight and wrote my first article in almost a year. 2 hours of ceaseless writing, creative juices flowing the entire time, everything miraculously falling into place. And frankly, I think it's my masterpiece. I get carried away and jump on one of the benches. You want to hear the contents? Oh, I love this image right here. I love it. You want to hear the contents? I know you're all dying to hear the contents. So, okay, let's hear the contents. I love this. Aisling Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, violently splitting with her student after he discovered her plans for horrifying experiments with blood magic. Her target, Baron Callahan. Said student, conveniently missing. We've got an exclusive source, too. Agathon the Warlock's personal diary. Extra, extra, read all about it. She's trying to hide that she's nervous, but she's practically shaking. I should be the one shaking. I'm piecing together what little solid or relatively solid intel I have, gluing it together into something coherent with educated assumptions and pure conjecture. But at least I'm fairly sure she recognizes me as a threat now, just what I'm hoping for. Next up, is it true that Torque, the brave Anarch Baron, primed to be the next de facto leader of the sect in NYC, might have been manipulating his entire faction to secure the position? This appeasement candidate convinced his key allies that the revolution is not an option at the moment, appearing as a reasonable alternative to his bloodthirsty rivals. His ace in the hole was a strangely efficient ability to establish diplomatic channels with the Camarilla, which he then used to gain a series of small concessions from the NYC court. Could it be that Prince Panhard, having realized that her longtime collaborator Baron Callahan was just an undesirable asset, found a different, more 2020 candidate to be the leader of the Anarchs? Extra, extra, read all about it. This one's not shaking, she's just angry. And this one just seems confused. And what about the fact that Torque, Helen Panhard, Thomas Arturo, Carter Vanderweyden, and Aisling Sturbridge were all summoned to Callahan's office right before his death? Could it be that the so-called boss employed some final desperate measures to stop his downward spiral into irrelevance, at which point a rushed plan to bring on his demise was executed? Could it be that Kaiser, the legendary New York City info broker striking deals left and right with both the Camarillas and the Anarchs, wiretapped Callahan's office to eavesdrop on those negotiations? Extra, extra, read all about it. You could cut the atmosphere here with a knife, and it's only getting worse. For them, at least. I feel better than I've felt in years. And the fact nobody is protesting probably means I'm hitting the nail on the head. Could it be that for the entire 21st century, the conflict between the New York City Camarilla and Anarchs was a sham? What if the Second Inquisition's operations in the city were consulted with the leaders of the two sects? How deep does the rot of corruption go? And what about Sophie Langley's disappearance? Yes, this has been bothering me the entire friggin' time. I knew this was connected, but anyway, yes. And what about Sophie Langley's disappearance? Attempts on the unlives of would-be members of a coterie she attempted to set up alongside her ward last year? Could all these things be connected? Okay, yeah, so I was right. Sophie was probably part of Coteries of New York, and the fledgling is the main character that you play. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Stay tuned, dear readers. Heavy silence befalls the room. When it becomes too overbearing, Kadir breaks it by hawking loudly. His poker face is indecipherable. And where, pray tell, can one read all about it tomorrow? 10 different places, among them, of course, a report received by the Clan La Sombra's elders in Chicago. Constantly mixing truths with lies. I do know some facts. I did write something. But all in all, it's a confidence grift, plain and simple. Have you sent it out already? No, and Father Leonard is not the channel I used to reach Chicago, in case you're wondering. I took every possible precaution, the way you taught me. I know this hurts him, but I can't show a single weakness right now. Oh, this is ridiculous. She's probably bluffing. No, she knows, Thomas. Aisling, how can you be certain? I just am. That diary probably just saved my ass. Thank you, Agathon, I guess. Even if I was bluffing, it's all about the optics. You nominate a special investigator, then the moment she presents her findings, you do what? Subjugate her? Get rid of her? How do you get out of this? I get it. You gave me that role, that title, because you were counting on me remaining the same shitty, useless nobody I was ever since I started working for the court. But funny how that works, isn't it? A week ago, nobody would give a shit about what I have to say. Now I'm a grave threat to this entire Illuminati New World Order arrangement you've got going on. I still maintain you can't possibly know and prove all the claims you've listed. There's just no way. I know. I checked. First off, stop bullshitting. You don't know that for sure. Secondly, even if you're right, so what? I've got leverage now. Because of my journalistic past, you gave me a detective title that wasn't worth a rat's ass in doing detective work. But ironically, it gave me the opportunity to do the best reporting I've ever done. And it doesn't even matter if it contains more facts than your official narrative. And you know why? Because the story I offer makes infinitely more sense, morally, emotionally, metaphysically, however you name it. It's a far hotter commodity than the low-rent bullshit you peddle. People nowadays buy into barely coherent crap like 5G and QAnon. Once they get a hold of my perfectly logical story and see you don't really have anything to counter it, you'll be fucked. Hell, the very fact none of you have denied any of my allegations yet speaks volumes, doesn't it? The prince is absolutely furious that she's not in charge, visibly scrambling to figure out some counteroffensive. Why would anybody listen to you? You made that story of yours sound completely unrespectable, like tabloid garbage. Tabloid would be fine. Just means it would reach more folks. What? What do you want? Now we're talking. A primogen position for Clan La Sombra and a number of privileges befitting that title. We can negotiate the details, but a nice apartment in downtown Manhattan is a must. Dreaming big, are we? What could even bring you to the fold as a primogen? I turn away from her to speak to the manager. Mr. Payne? Yes? I knew it. I knew that Addison was more important. As you can see, we've all found ourselves in quite a mess here. Indeed, to say the least. If I find us a way out, will you form a professional relationship with me and back the decision to make me primogen? The figure in the wheelchair lets out a sarcastic laugh, sounding like the final wheeze of a dying man. You really are swinging for the fences, aren't you, child? I'm not suicidal, most of the time at least. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have my sights set sky high. I understand. So how do you propose we solve this little predicament? Easy. We give the masses an even better story than the one I suggested. One that benefits nearly all the parties in the room. Alright then. Thanks to your moxie, you've secured yourself my tentative support, child. Let's hear it. Thank you very much. Okay then. During my investigation, I recovered some interesting intel about a certain individual. Praise be to Kaiser's abandoned limousine. Said individual would definitely prefer his behind-the-scenes dealings to remain unknown. For the last 20 years, he's been an on- and off mediator between the different parties in the city. He prides himself on his diplomatic skills. Interestingly enough, though, one of his main motivations was selling intel about both the Camarilla and the Anarchs to any party that might be interested. Usually that meant Kaiser. With a reasonable degree of certainty, he can be held responsible for a few recent failed Camarilla operations that weakened Helen Panhardt's position. He dreams of being a prince, you see. Oh my gosh. Oh, Carter. I can already see him awkwardly shifting his weight. Recently, he obtained control over an IT company called Double Spiral, which he uses to influence NYC's kind in ways that further his agenda and weaken his political enemies. He also operates the most powerful law firm in the city. He uses both of these tools so that he can manipulate the mortals to slowly tie a noose around Anarch leaders and court members who want him gone. I'm talking, of course, about Carter Vanderweyden. In a split second, all eyes in the room are set on him. Oh, I know where this is going. Oh my gosh. People, whatever she throws at me, I'm sure I can explain. I throw a file I recovered from Kaiser's limo at the bench. Are you sure? Because there's a hell of a lot to explain. Addison's servant picks up the file so his master can browse through it. If that's not enough, I'm sure Double Spiral will be happy to deliver us more. So all the things you said the other night were a steaming pile of bullshit, Carter? Addison, we're friends. There's a good explanation for every single thing that I've listed there. I swear on my father's grave. Even if there is, I doubt you can justify allowing a girl who's little more than a fledgling ripping your credibility to shreds in a matter of seconds. You've proven yourself as something infinitely worse than a traitor, Carter. You're a weak traitor. Thomas! Helen! Don't you even dare speak to me, you bastard! That was the last element of my strategy. I hope they won't throw any curveballs my way, because from now on, it's all pure improvisation. Just 2 minutes ago, I was the #1 enemy of everyone in this room. Now I'm their unexpected ally, revealing a common foe that some people in this room have wanted to nail since forever. All I'm saying is we've got ourselves a perfect scapegoat to pin everything on. Shady dealings between both sects, all the real conspiracies he was involved in, and possibly perfect looks in history. The schadenfreude accompanying his fall will be enough to keep some kindred in this city happy for years. He shoots me a demented look, one I assume is typically reserved for a future strangling victim. You can't do this to me! And why is that? You are incompetent. Wow. That's the best you can do? Seriously? Kadir? Yes, my prince? Seize him. No! No! I beg you! Just no! You can come with me without a struggle, or in torpor. As usual, it's 3 strikes with me, then you're gone. No! No, 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 no. He talks a lot, but puts up minimal resistance. Kadir drags him out of the room, and that's the last I ever see of him. For a good minute, everyone just stands there, confused. Then Addison begins to clap! Bravo, Miss Sawinski. I haven't seen such an adventurous power play in years. Maybe your generation is not all lost after all. Does that mean I can count on your support? Of course, as far as I'm concerned, you're the kind of ruthless primogen this city needs, especially now when one seat will probably be made vacant. So, what do you say, my prince? Panhard recoils a little when she hears me refer to her in such an official manner. My relationship with Addison is a decades-long conflict, and by now I know which hills I'm willing to die on. This is not one of them. Rejoice, girl. You're going to get what you want, as well as deserve. We do have one important condition, though. Of course you do. Mr. Payne, as I'm sure you'll agree, being primogen is an important representative position. It demands nothing but a display of impeccable respect for the masquerade and the traditions. Of course. It is my concern that it wouldn't be proper for us to be represented by someone who openly violated the rules of kindred society. But of course, that wouldn't do at all. They'd have to openly renounce their old ways, to the very least. Indeed. And I think in the case of Miss Sawinski, who has lived with a mortal under a single roof for a long time, the best course of action will be to renounce her and give her up to our sheriff. That kind of gesture would prove the new primogen's dedication to the court beyond any reasonable doubt. Yeah. I kind of figured that would happen. She'd have to give up on Dakota, but I think with the way Julia's gone, she's not going to care. Yes, I definitely agree. Her ambition and pride are admirable, but it would be prudent of us to demand a display of humility as well. Sadistic fucks. My thoughts exactly. Well then. Your answer, miss? Huh. What's so funny, Miss Sawinski? I see it in your eyes, Arturo. You naive fool. You think you're so goddamn clever. You think I wouldn't have gotten this far if I didn't think it all through? There's only one response. I agree. Do what you must. He's speechless. He thought he had me pinned, and I simply responded with a checkmate. Guess that solves our problem, then. Let's head out for now. It's been an exhausting evening, and dawn is nearing. Yes, let's just do that. He walks Payne out, looking unstrung and defeated. Soon after, Kadir was ordered to take care of Dakota. He asked me if I want to know what was done to her. My reply was honest. Not really interested, no. He said that I'd gotten myself into a terrible game, the rules of which defied comprehension. Yeah, so I still like Kadir. I still like him. He still cares. And all this time he just wanted to protect her from the political game and the scheming. That's probably why he's okay with just being a sheriff rather than a politician. I replied that if I'm winning and climbing upward, I must be doing something right. Still, we don't talk too much these days beyond professional interactions. I have a much bigger world to think about now, one that fills me with happiness. Come to think of it, my current state reminds me of those few halcyon days right after my embrace. It might not last, but at this point I have to ask myself, what does? It's always about the next bigger rush. I'm writing speeches and official communications for the NYC Camarilla these days, helping out Payne from time to time too. Funny, I've never felt more accomplished, more fulfilled as a journalist than I am now. Karen is visiting in a few days to congratulate me on behalf of the entire Chicago-based clan. Apparently, I've not only met her expectations, but exceeded them. She keeps bragging to everyone about how great her eye was in picking me. It's only these shadows that keep getting to me. I notice them everywhere these nights, and there are more and more of them surrounding me as time goes on. But it doesn't matter. I like to think they're being cast because my future looks so bright. Okay, so that, yeah, that's kind of what I thought would happen if you started becoming aggressive. You would sacrifice your humanity for the sake of power. But if you play something like Vampire, that's something that people warn you about. That's always been the kind of duality of these vampire games is, you know, sacrificing your humanity, but the more you lose, the more you gain in terms of power. So I liked it a lot. I liked that we reached that conclusion with the court. I think that was a really clever power play. Of course, that means that she's now thrust into it. Well, I don't know if I like the conclusion of the court. I like that she was trying to do it. I mean, I like that the truth came out. I like that we reached the truth. Of course, it's always kind of sad to me to see that that comes at the sacrifice of people who were her friends. But again, that's been the core of every kind of vampire game I've ever played. But what did you guys think of the ending? Which ending did you prefer? Would you have done the same thing? But I hope you liked this bonus episode. For now, this is Am and M. I'm Amanda, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!